Welcome to Spiritual Ambition, where we tune in to awaken our divine nature and explore the provocative inner force compelling us toward our fullest potential. If you've achieved external success but feel a deeper calling, if you're tired of dimming your light to fit in, and you know there's a more powerful way to live and lead and love, you're in the right place. Host Donna is a best-selling author, modern-day high priestess, and catalyst for personal transformation. Together, we're birthing a new paradigm of loving leadership, integrating our humanity with divine wisdom as our individual awakening serves collective evolution. Here's your host of Spiritual Ambition, Donna Bond.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in, welcome back. This is episode number 18 of Spiritual Ambition, and today our show is called Energetic Rewiring, How Soul Level Healing Transforms Our Physical Health. If you have been struggling with health challenges and you've tried everything, you're not going to want to miss our show today. Your body isn't broken. It is this brilliant design, and it's designed to guide you back to your wholeness. What if every symptom, every struggle, every stubborn health challenge isn't actually your enemy, but your soul's sacred messenger calling you back to your truth, calling you back to your wholeness? Today, we're going to explore the missing piece that transforms healing from forcing outcomes and forcing our will and trying to make things happen into flowing with your body's divine intelligence. I'm Donna Bond. This is Spiritual Ambition, where we tune in to awaken our divine nature. And we remember that true vitality begins within, not with another protocol, but with honoring our original wisdom. And we have a very special guest with us today, Danielle Pashko, she brings a revolutionary approach that blends science, energy, and soul for true healing. So we're going to begin like we always do, unless, of course, you're driving a car. Like I always say, let's just take a moment. Let's close our eyes. Let's connect with our breath, with our heart, with our higher self. Welcome in everyone who's in the chat. Hello. I'm glad you're here. All right, just closing our eyes and just take a nice deep breath and call back your energy from all of the places that it's been out working on your behalf. And then just exhaling, letting go of anything that no longer serves you, letting go of anything you no longer need, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. And as you continue breathing, just allowing your heart to open, allowing your higher consciousness to be present here at this time, just slowing down the doing of your mind, slowing down any of the activities that you're involved in, just knowing that you can give yourself permission to take a time out, even to slow down and tune in. Infinite universe, we call ourselves forward into your loving. We ask to be cleared, filled, surrounded, and protected with the clear white light of living love. We ask that any karma, negativity, imbalance, any distress, discomfort, dis-ease, any energy or vibrational frequency that is vibrating at anything less than the frequency of divine loving that may be residing anywhere in our homes, properties, environments, loved ones, pets, anywhere in our consciousness, mentally, physically, emotionally, subconsciously, or energetically. We ask that anything with a resonant frequency less than divine loving be lifted and transmuted at this time, taken to the highest realms of light and sound, and dispersed back into the nothingness. Into this space, we ask to be flooded with grace and light and love, with radiant health and well-being, with balance and wholeness and vitality, with aliveness and purpose and meaning. We acknowledge and we welcome those divine beings of light who love each one of us unconditionally, who work for the divine plan and who work for the light. We welcome only you into our sacred space here today. We ask for your support and assistance in bringing forward healing, revelation, and wisdom of the heart that will resonate most profoundly with each individual here, whether they're watching live or catching the replay, for their highest good and the highest good of all concerned, keeping in mind each of our unique destinies. We are so grateful for the opportunity to come together and do this work. And for this and more, we say thank you. So be it. Just returning ourselves back to the room, bringing our attention here together, joining our hearts wherever we are around the globe. Today, I am sharing with you live from San Diego. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California, and our beautiful guest, Danielle, is coming to us from New York City. So I'm excited to come together with her. You know, our health journey is so much part of our becoming. It's so much part of the growth opportunities that each one of us has and faces in these human bodies. You know, we are always wanting to return these bodies to balance and to their optimal state, because when we feel good, we feel invincible. We feel like, we can look at any difficult situation and see the potential and the possibilities in it, as long as we feel good and vitalized and revitalized. And so, we look around and we see so many different ways that media is always trying to invite us into how to feel better. We see all these big pharmaceutical companies flashing their fancy commercials during primetime television around, take a pill and just feel better overnight. And I'm really excited to talk with our guest today about soul level healing. And, through my own breast cancer journey, which was 9 years ago now, I know that that journey for me was really about self-love. At the end of the day, it was about self-love, and it was about the recognition of how unruly I had been to myself, how unyielding, how I was treating myself like a machine, how I was the last person to be a supporter for myself, to be a cheerleader, to um, give myself an attaboy or any accolades or any recognition for the journey that I was making as a human, the journey that you're making as a human being, as a spiritual being, making her way through this epic human adventure. We're all doing it. And our relationship to our body and our relationship to our health is front and center for so many of us. And so I'm really excited to bring Danielle on here in just a few minutes so we can start this conversation about energetic rewiring and what does it mean to heal at a soul level and how that transforms our health and our body. Hello to everybody in the chat. Surrey, hello. Jennifer Rose, big love. Kay Weezy, hello. Love to you. Jennifer McCormick, welcome back. KB, hi. Pamela, welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. So, one of the things that we always do here on Spiritual Evolution is our sacred circle of light. And this is our opportunity to send love and light with great intention for a blessing of healing and upliftment to anybody around the globe who might need it. So, in the broadest sense, I just want to send love and light to any place on the planet where anyone is experiencing war or struggle or fear. Some specific loved ones who have been brought forward that we're going to send the light to today include Betty and Bob, Robin, Ashley, Celia, Don, Eric. And if you have anybody that you want to drop their name in the chat, you can feel free to do so. If there's someone who's really struggling that you would like placed in our sacred container, you can go to spiritualambition.sacredlight.com and submit their name, and we will hold them in our sacred container together. This is where we all just take a moment, we join our hearts, and we hold our intention, and we send that blessing of upliftment to all of those recipients. We include Eric, David, Tom, and Fran. And we just send that light. Thank you. Well, through the sacred conversation that we're going to have today, my intention for you is that you remember that your body's voice is your soul's voice. And I'm holding the intention for you to release any fight that you might be in with any symptoms that you have, and instead leaning into those symptoms to begin to decode the wisdom that they are carrying so that you can begin to trust your nervous system knows how to take you home in a gentle way that you can follow your body's divine intelligence. The more we can begin to honor this sacred vessel that we all have been entrusted with, the more we stand in our sovereign authority, the more we really do embody our wholeness and our health and our vitality. And so today's entire show is really dedicated to that journey. Danielle Pashko is a wellness practitioner, a functional nutritionist, and the creator of Soul Hacker, a revolutionary approach that blends science, energy, and soul for true healing. After her own journey through thyroid cancer, Lyme disease, and long COVID, which led her beyond traditional protocols and into an energetic rewiring, Danielle now guides high achievers who have done it all to finally come home to their body's wisdom where they can reclaim authentic vitality. So without further ado, I want to welcome Danielle Pashko to Spiritual Ambition.
Hi, thank you for having me. And what a beautiful introduction. I love how you did that meditation in the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Danielle. It's really my honor and privilege to be with you today. And I'm so grateful for your share in advance and all of the wisdom that you're going to bring to our viewers today. So, you have walked through thyroid cancer, Lyme disease, and long COVID, and you discovered that traditional protocols weren't enough. So take us to that moment where you realized that maybe your body wasn't broken, but it was actually speaking a different language that you hadn't yet learned to understand, but you had that call to do just that.
Yes. Well, first of all, the traditional protocols, when we think about the allopathic, very traditional medical community, that's one way of dealing with illness. But when you're dealing with something chronic, unfortunately, a lot of that doesn't work. And then we think, well, if we're not going traditional, then let's try the functional medicine route. That must have all the answers because it's alternative. And even so, functional medicine is still not necessarily, it's not looking at the soul. It's looking at the body, maybe using herbs and supplements and more holistic type of approaches. But once again, a lot of it, or even the biohacking movement that people are so connected to, it's quantifying everything. But we're not robots. We're mind, body, spirit, and we do have a soul, and that's a very important part of us that is absolutely neglected. And I've been working in clinical practice as a nutritionist for over 20 years and with some of the best doctors in New York City, and they're great. But once I got to a point when I was so sick and I was not healing and my symptoms were so chronic and I felt like I had traumatic brain injury. And I mean, I really was giving up hope and almost felt like a fraud myself. Like, wow, I work in this top clinic. I understand everything about nutraceuticals and nutrition and peptides and all of these different things. I can read lab work inside and out. I'm fluent with it. Like, why am I not healing? And it wasn't that the practices that I did were completely new. They brought me back to things that I learned in an earlier point in my life. And I remembered I learned this stuff when I was a child. I lost my mother very young. And some of the books she gave me were Love, Medicine, and Miracles from Dr. Bernie Siegel. She gave me
Yeah.
books from Louise Hay. She also gave me Anatomy of the Spirit from Caroline Myss. And these were things I learned as a child. And when nothing was working, I was like, I have to go back to this. And a lot of that started what became the beginning of my healing. Hi, Jennifer. I see your message down there. Yes. So that is, it became a big part of getting well. And so much of it was related to working on the nervous system, getting back in touch with my spirituality, with my faith, with prayer, visualization, meditation, and strangely, martial arts.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. I know we were talking about that just before the show, but before we go down the martial arts line, soul hacker.
Yeah.
What does it mean? How does it work? Bridge the gap for us that can help. There's so much skepticism still, right? My master's degree is in spiritual psychology with an emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing. It's just this. It's that we need to include the higher spiritual dimensions into our healing protocols.
Absolutely.
So share with us through your own personal discovery, how did you become the soul hacker?
Well, I'm connected to many people that are hardcore biohackers, which means they're focusing on hacking their biology all the time with quantification of everything, or jumping into cold plunges or red light therapy or all the peptides, ozone, all these different types of things, which for a perfectly well person, it would make them just more well. But when you're so sick, like you were speaking about in the beginning, our soul is speaking to us. There is a correction that needs to be made. This is not something that is new. This is ancient. If you go back to Maimonides, who was a philosopher, a doctor, a rabbi, a healer, he talks about illness as a result of the soul needing a correction. And I really do believe that. And I had to go deep and figure out, like, there has to be more, because I know I'm not meant to be sick. That was like clear. Like, I wasn't well, but I was like, I have more to do in this world. And this can't be my path. And it happened 3 times to me, all at, fairly young ages. And I thought, no, there's something here. And that's when I felt like I needed to really tap into the more soulful practices. And so every day, I mean, it was like, I have a connection with my creator. I talk to God. It doesn't matter what religion you are, whether it's God or the universe, but it was like every morning I would have a therapy session with God. I'd wake up and I would like literally speak out loud. I would scream out loud. I would do whatever I had to do to break through, because I felt like I needed to have that guidance. And as I was speaking the words, it was almost like it was channeled to me, like what I needed to say and what I needed to ask for to get those blessings. And then it gave me some clarity in how to move forward. And a lot of what I did was also related to visualization. So I got heavily into visualization. Joe Dispenza talks about mental rehearsal, and that's what I was doing. I did a lot of mental rehearsal and visualizing myself well, and visualizing myself as a martial artist. So that was before it happened. So there was that, and the belief. And when you think about affirmations, or some people call them doing different reweaves, and talking about speaking in a way that is drawing in the positivity and creating a different outcome for yourself. So I was really careful with my speech. And I think a lot of that shifted me into a place that I began to attract things. And I attracted my first teacher, who was my teacher of martial arts, who started to pull me out of this. So to go back to what you're saying, soul hacker is really tapping into these soulful practices and really being mindful of our spirit and finding out, what do we need to do to get to that place that's going to assist in our healing. And it's different for every single person. So
Yes.
for what worked for me may not work for someone else, but we have to listen to that inner voice.
Yes. Yes. I love everything that you're sharing. And a couple of things really stand out for me. When I was struggling with my health, one of my coaches said to me, yeah, you're doing all these things and you're seeing all these functional medicine doctors and, you're taking all these supplements, but when are you going to take responsibility for your own health? And in what you just shared, I really hear you calling yourself forward, right? And when we're speaking about the soul is neutral. So the soul is going to help us bring in and call forward whatever it is we're directing it to do, because it has no judgment over what might be right or wrong or good or bad. It's just here for the experience because it's garnering wisdom.
Yes.
So if we are irresponsible, I'm going to say, if we are irresponsible in the way in which we are directing that higher part of us, let's call it the I am presence, right? We're going to get the cause and effect of whatever that looks like. So I'm really hearing you saying, like, wow, I was examining my belief systems and I was working with affirmations and like doing visualizations and really reconditioning the direction of your experience. Does that feel accurate?
It feels very accurate. And I also had to tune out a lot of noise, because there's a very large chronic illness community, and it kind of it reaffirms each other. Like, people are suffering and they go into this negative loop, and it's understandable. You're going through hell, But at the same time, if you keep that as your belief system, that you can't get better, I'm chronically, I don't even want to say it, but if you keep saying it over and over to your body
Yes.
believes it. So I
Yes.
really had to distance myself and go into a mode of faith. And it's been something that I it's a discipline. It's not like I
Yes.
did it and I'm better and now I never have to practice it. It is a daily discipline. Like going to the gym, you have to marshal your thoughts. You have to be so careful with what you allow in, because it's so easy to go negative. And at the same time, we have to learn to change our state to really, be in a consciousness of well-being, and something something we all need to work on. It's part of the human
Yeah.
experience, we
It's
tend to go
part of
negative.
the human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love that you brought this forward. And one of the things I got a volt of energy when you said, like, I knew this wasn't it for me. Like, this illness wasn't it. Like, this wasn't going to be my life. Like, there's more for me. And, I think it's very significant, of course, that you've been through this 3 times,
Right.
and you have sort of unhinged this awareness within yourself, and you have walked the path of mastery towards this. And in so doing, because you've healed that for yourself, you're helping pave the way for others to do the same.
That's what I hope. That's really, when you've gone through something that's so sobering, all you want to do is you have so much gratitude that you're better. You're like, I want to make it my life's mission to help people who are dealing with this, because it just seems like if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And so I'm in a place in my life where I really want to just focus everything on really helping others, especially who feel so stuck and have these belief systems. I want to shatter those belief systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. For individuals who are really physically suffering, like I know for myself, like I'm 57. I am healthier than I have been in a long, long time. But if I wake up, like if I don't get enough sleep and I wake up and I'm not feeling well, wow, it's so incredible how that can derail the entire day.
Yes.
So what guidance do you have for someone who's really like in it physically, who is just struggling so badly, and they're in that place that really seems like they can never get out of it? What's the guidance for that person?
2 things I really find very important that helped for me were prayer. I know some people will give me some pushback on that one, but I think being connected to something really does help. And if that's not your thing, I think also visualization. That's something we all can do, even if we're not believing in a higher power. But actually going through this time where we can close our eyes and see ourselves well and try our best to picture it, and not even worrying so much about how am I going to be there? How is it going to happen? Like, you don't have to go through all the how. It's really just seeing yourself, the end result. Get to the end, get to that place of you see yourself with a smile and you're doing well. And that's the first part. If you're physically not able to do the actions, at least see it in your mind.
Yeah, beautiful. And, because it's my show and I get to say this, like, if prayer isn't your thing, well, maybe it should be, or maybe you want to try it out, or maybe you can open yourself to an experimentation with a communion with something that feels greater than you. And I certainly know for myself that has opened up a lot of doors in my life in a lot of different ways. When we can expand our awareness and our consciousness and our belief system,
Yes,
to include the magic of the universe. Yeah, go ahead.
because faith is the anchor. It's really so. people think, well, I'm spiritual, I meditate, and meditation, it's a good practice. It clears the mind, it calms you down. But if you don't believe and you're just sort of like chilling out, it's not going to push you in the direction of healing. It's going to calm you down. But the belief, we are so strong. Our minds, I mean, we hear about these spontaneous remissions and things happening with faith. And this is something that I've experienced firsthand. And we have to see it for it to actually occur. It's like, when you understand this whole thing in the fifth dimension and seeing things, and, we're here in the 3D, and it's like looking into that layer and saying, this is where I want to see myself. This is where I am. This is where I am. This is who I am. This is where I am. And really embodying that. And it's hard to do. I mean, it's not like, people are going to get it on the first try. You have to be patient. I mean, I spent months doing this and not feeling like I was answered. And I was like, well, maybe this doesn't work. I mean, sometimes I would, walk in really, really, like I'm going to do this thing. And then I come out of it and I still felt sick. And I'm like, why? Am I ever going to get better? But I just stuck with it because I just believed that it was not supposed to be the way it was going down. And then eventually I drew in the situations, the people, the circles, everything started to come together. And I was like, wow, like this is divine. Like there's no way that things happen the way they did. It wasn't just like random at all. So I know that, I played a big role in attracting that. I think God played a big role in attracting that. But these other people that came into my life, the energy is real. And we do attract. So we have to really, really be careful about what we think and really focus on what we want.
Yeah. In my book, Original Wisdom, Harness the Power of the Authentic You, I have a chapter that's called Our Beliefs Create Our World. Yes. And I know for myself, and I'm going to ask you to speak to this. I know for myself, there was a lot of undoing of beliefs before there was room for the sort of reconstruction or the reinvention or the reimagination of what do I want it to be? And I think there's even a prompt in my book that says, well, what do you want to believe? And that's like a really confrontive question because we don't make room for the fact that we could believe something different.
Right. And to add to that, I can see where my belief systems were really stuck. I lost my parents when I was a child. I was an orphan. My mom died so young of cancer. And it was this like worthiness feeling of like, well, she died at 38, I'm around that, like I was around that age, like maybe I'm not supposed to live longer. Maybe people have better lives than me. Maybe, I didn't, I always felt like people were luckier than me. Like I had this, and in some ways I was so confident. And then in other ways, because I never had love, I never had a family. I moved out on my own when I was 16 years old. I didn't have brothers and sisters. Like I was always alone in this world. And I had this sense of like, maybe I'm not that special or that important. And it was like, I had to break that belief. Like I'm not meant to be sick. I'm not reliving my mother's life. I deserve to be happy and healthy like everyone else. And like, these were things that, you wouldn't see that if you met me and you saw me outside, like you wouldn't think that I had these like deep subconscious thoughts, but they ran so deep. And then when I was going through this, I'm like, no, I want to live. I choose to live. I want to have a good life. I'm not repeating what went on with my mother. I love my mother and I have her in my heart, but that does not need to be my life, Yes. So it's, it was definitely a lot of changing the way that I thought. And I'm a lot older than 38 now. I see K-Weezy down there saying I'm 38. I'm a lot older than that now, but this started happening when I was 31. So From 31 to 44, I was going through all this stuff. So yeah.
Jules says sometimes things come to us or happen to make us believe, even if we choose not to. My health journey can definitely fall under that umbrella.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And KB asks, what are your favorite foods or healing routines for the body?
So I think it depends what's going on with your body. People eat different diets for considering for what's going on with them. It's like some people may thrive as a vegan and other people feel terrible, depending on where they are in the spectrum of things. But I find that a lot of people who are, let's say, dealing with Lyme disease or different complex chronic illness, for them, I find that they would probably benefit from a low histamine diet, anti-inflammatory diet, potentially like an autoimmune type of protocol. Those are so eating a lot of, it can be healthy, like fish, which, fatty fish. It could be having some healthy like this sounds a little bit out there because you may not think of it as the most healing, but for me, when I was at my worst, the most healing thing for me was actually the carnivore diet. So that was temporary. But at the time, I had a lot of neurological issues, and it was very healing for me for 1 month. And I don't eat that way anymore, but I needed that temporarily. And I find that people sometimes need to do modifications in their diet for short periods of time, just to almost reset them, and then they can go back. So whether it's low histamine or whether it's an autoimmune protocol or whether it's paleo or, going carnivore for a while, or maybe they do need to be a vegan for a while. Like it really depends. So I don't have one favorite. I think it really depends on the person.
Danielle, how do we tune in to our own body wisdom to guide us towards those types of answers?
The answers regarding the soul or regarding food or all of it?
Yeah, all of it. Food, just this whole idea that we really do know what's best for our body. And I think we get off track because we want to do what that guy did, or we're listening to what our mother's telling us, or, we are so subject to these outside influences that we overlook our own intelligence.
It's so true. Like, for example, the whole trend of intermittent fasting, which is very popular. And yes, I understand why you would want to fast. It helps promote autophagy, and which eats up those senescent cells in your body. And there's many benefits. But I knew for myself, I remember I was going through this and I was like, you should do intermittent fasting. And it was like this intuition, like, that is not what you're supposed to be doing. And, sometimes you just feel that. And if you really want to try something and you're sort of going against your intuition, go very slow and then sit with it and see how you feel. Whether it's a supplement, I mean, there's times that there's certain supplements that are supposed to be good herbs and supplements. And when I was going through my issues, and I would sit with the bottle, hold the bottle. How does this feel to me? Is this something that that my body tolerates, that it likes, that it feels good with? Because we're moving so fast paced. And I think what illness or even just feeling an overall sense of not feeling well, I think it forces us to slow down. And I think the slower we are and the more grounded we get, the more the answers will start revealing themselves, and you'll get a sense of what's right for you versus what's, popular on TikTok.
Right. Speak a little bit about the energetic piece, Danielle. I know you brought up Anatomy of the Spirit. Like, I'm a huge Carolyn Myss fan. And in my consciousness, health, and healing program, we moved through each of the chakras and really understood what the physical connection was to these mental and emotional imbalances and how that was out picturing in our physical body. So how do you sort of see the energetic world, and how does that show up in the work that you do with clients?
So the energetic work for me, a lot of it is really getting into your body. I feel like we focus so much on food and supplements, but really movement is such a place of it's such an outlet for healing and down regulating the nervous system. And I know that word is thrown around a lot, the nervous system being in the parasympathetic. I get that, but it is so important for healing. And so for me, the energetic work, a lot comes is I started practicing a lot of the internal martial arts, which move the chi, while I do a lot of grounding. So it's like when I'm in New York, where I am now, I'm at the park and I have my shoes off and I'm outside and like I'm the lady doing like the Tai Chi in the park, and and for me that's the energetic work. Like I feel it in my body, and but also it's like sometimes like tapping. Like I do a lot of tapping through the qigong, which is like opening things up. I do a lot of belly tapping over here. I also and then when you have enough strength, even dance is like so good to let it out. So I think that is something that is like very, very healing for me. Like I felt so like wound, like so tight, and the movement, like moving the chi and like the stagnant energy, like for me, that was where that was a very big energetic piece for me. So movement is so critical. So I feel like if anyone is like even bedbound, they need to like do things like shake or move or tap or like you need to get things going, and that also changes your mental state. So for me, that's like a very big energetic piece.
Huge. Absolutely. And it's opening up those channels.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that. It's so true. So how did you fall in love with the martial arts? I know we've touched on it briefly, but share with us your journey and how that connects to your radiant health.
So when I was really sick, this is going back like 3 years ago, I was like the Lyme followed by the long COVID. And I was dealing with blurred vision. I had a syndrome called POTS, where my heart rate would go all the way up. My blood pressure would drop. I would have fainting spells. I'm in New York. I'm like scared to even walk on the street. Like I was working in a medical practice. Like I had to just not go into the office anymore because I was so dizzy. I couldn't look at a screen. I couldn't do anything. I felt like full on traumatic brain injury. And so I really got heavily into my meditations and my visualization. And I had never practiced. I was always a yogi. I taught yoga for 20 years, just like on the side for fun. And yoga wasn't really, I love yoga. It just wasn't like helping my condition. So I started visualizing these Kung Fu movies that I watched as a child. I have been, I don't have my father, but when I was with him when I was younger, we used to watch all these Kung Fu movies. So I started visualizing the scenes from these Kung Fu movies when I was younger. And I felt like if I could do Kung Fu, like that was me healed, and I would watch it happen. And then I would come out of the visualization and I obviously had no strength. So I said, well, I can't do Kung Fu, but let me find someone I can do Tai Chi and Qigong with. And which is a more internal form of martial arts, and Kung Fu and Tai Chi is actually Kung Fu, the internal version. As soon as I dedicated myself to doing that, I like went online and I found this teacher whose name is Sifu Gary Tong. He is the most amazing Qigong master. Like, I don't even know how and that there's an expression in martial arts, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. He just like showed up and he taught these group classes for a bunch of seniors in the park. I felt too weak to practice with seniors in the park. So I said, can you teach me privately? And we started working privately. And it turned out that he had dealt with his own chronic health issues. And he was very big into Kung Fu and had to move over to the slower internal forms. And he had a complete remission. And he's like strong as an ox. And so I started with that, and we would do these practices and movement and breathing and grounding. And I started telling him about like my Kung Fu fantasies and how I wanted to be this martial artist. And he said, I think you could actually, I was getting so much strength back. He said, I think you could actually start practicing Wing Chun, which was the form that Bruce Lee did. And I cracked up laughing. I'm like, you think I could do Wing Chun Kung Fu? Like, are you kidding? Like, I was just in bed like 6 months ago. And he said, go, just like use your, like, like use your yin breathing, like think Tai Chi when you're, so you don't burn out. And I remember going to the studio in New York City. It was so intimidating. It was like 6 flights of steps up the steps in this old building. I get there, this martial arts teacher knows nothing about chronic illness, doesn't like whatever. And I'm trying to explain everything. And I'm like, hoping I don't pass out in the class. And now that was 2 years ago, and I just passed my 6th Kung Fu exam. And, I just came from Wing Chun before I came on your podcast today. And it's my biggest joy. I love it. So I went from that to actually practicing the type of martial arts that I was visualizing.
Yeah. Incredible. I love it. And I love hearing you say it's your biggest joy. And I feel like that too is, I feel like that's such an important component to our health. And everybody can make excuses and find reasons why there's not enough time to do the things that bring them joy. But that is a critical component to radiant health and well-being. It's a critical component to why our soul took embodiment, right? So we're talking about the soul and having the soul support us in our wholeness and in our health, making that connection to our joy. And like, what is that for you? Yeah,
absolutely. It's so connected to joy. And again, this is not a new concept. I mean, there's even a saying that it's like an ancient saying that the basic cause of illness is unhappiness and the greatest healer is joy. And it is so true. And I know because like, I light up when I think about martial arts, and it makes no sense that like I'm doing this now from where I came from, So if I can do it, like I have faith that, I'm not saying everyone, some things are very challenging, and who knows why, some people, their soul has to go through this experience, but there are conditions that people can recover from, but they have to believe it. And if you would have told me 3 years ago that I'd be practicing Wing Chun Kung Fu, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are.
Here we are. KB had asked earlier, what is the biggest change that you've experienced in your health from 31 to 41?
The biggest change in my health?
Or the biggest change in you?
I think it's more my mental state. So, from 31 to 37, my health was amazing. And after I got over thyroid cancer at 31, I recovered, and it was until Lyme hit, and then I started going down. But I think just really, really knowing who I am, and also I have a lot more empathy for my own clients, to be honest, because I've been a nutritionist and a practitioner since I'm 24. So I've been in clinical practice. But, when you work with people and you haven't been through something yourself, you can care about them and you understand what you learned in school. But until you actually experience that, like there's nothing like life experience. So when I'm talking to somebody that's not well, and they're like, but I don't know if I can get better. And I'm like, yes, you can. Like I've been there. I understand. It's like, like a marriage counselor who's talking to you that's been through been through the ringer, or a grief counselor who's been through a tremendous loss. So I think the way that I work with people has shifted so much because I really understand what it is, and I can have that empathy. And I'm grateful for it. I don't want to have to keep experiencing this. I always say when I do talk to God, I'm like, please, like next time you want to teach me a lesson, tap me gently on the shoulder, teach me in another way rather than physical suffering. But I think that these lessons are valuable.
Yeah. If you could give some guidance to anyone who's really on a learning journey right now with their health, what is the drop of wisdom that you want to leave with them?
I would say start listening to people that lift you up and are inspiring. One person, like, for example, if you don't know where to start with your visualizations, look at people like Joe Dispenza, who were in such terrible, dire conditions, who were told they can never walk again. And now, they're running seminars for thousands of people, and they are really great examples. You want to look at people who have overcome things successfully and can really give you hope. Don't, focus on the negative. Get out of all of the chat groups. I know it may feel like you have a support system because people can echo what you're saying and it feels like they get me. But at the same time, it can keep you stuck where you are, and you want to grow above that. You don't want to have like this trauma bond, right? You want to be able to grow out of that. So I think it's always important to try to look at people who can inspire you, who have overcome things themselves, and then you can actually believe it's real.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I just love this so much. What a gold nugget. Yeah. Really looking at somebody who has walked that incredible path and that can mirror back to you the possibility of what is possible, what is available.
Absolutely.
And opening our.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
One client that he kind of reminded me. I don't know if you ever have seen White Lotus, or if anyone has seen White Lotus, but he reminded me of the husband, like very high powered, very, successful, had a family to take care of. He had this like burden on his shoulders, but he also was dealing with a chronic condition, and he didn't look sick. And the family was like giving him, they couldn't deal with what he was dealing with. And the first call we had together, he's like, I've seen your Instagram. Like, I just want to talk to you. I don't know if you're even going to help me, but I want to know that it is possible to heal from what you've healed from, because I'm in that position right now. And I need to speak to another person that's actually lived it. Like, can we just have a session just so I can hear your experience? And for him, he needed that just to actually like change that in his mind. Like, okay, it's real.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like just some like third party like story that someone told. Like, it is the truth. And so I think that that's very important.
I couldn't agree with you more. I absolutely love that. And, speaking from my own journey, we can get to a place where we can begin to trust our own bodies in a way that is a strong relationship that we have with ourself,
Yes.
rather than putting our health in the hands of our doctor or a medical practitioner or professional. 3 years ago, I had a breast ultrasound that they wanted me to get a biopsy.
Mm-hmm.
And inside of myself, I knew there was nothing wrong with me, but I let fear biopsy, and
Right.
nothing was wrong. There was nothing
Right.
wrong. And I actually ended up getting COVID because I had been in this medical facility, and from the invasiveness, if that's a word, from the biopsy, my immune system sort of fell low and I was susceptible, and I ended up getting sick, but there was nothing the matter with my breast. Fast forward 3 years later, I just went through a very similar situation where I had a normal mammogram.
Yeah.
And then I had an ultrasound, and the ultrasound revealed something that they wanted to do a biopsy on. And I said, there's nothing the matter with me. I don't want to do the biopsy. And hem and ha, okay, what if we agree that you'll come back in another 6 months, you'll get another ultrasound. And if there's no change, then okay, we won't recommend the biopsy. I said, fine. There was no change. I didn't get the biopsy. I just share this because myself, having been through breast cancer and a long road to radiant health and well-being, really includes this self-trust piece. Yes. And really knowing inside of ourselves letting that direct us and guide us to whatever our next action is going to be. I feel like there could be more education around that. There could be more training on helping people understand the signals and the intuitive guidance that they're getting about their body.
Definitely. And it reminds me of a story when I started getting breast ultrasounds when I was about 23, 24, because my mother got cancer at 31 years old and she died from it. And so I was maybe 27 or 28 years old, and I had a breast ultrasound, and they told me I needed to come back for a biopsy. And I was at the time, I went back to my mother always talking about how she did a lot of visualization on her breasts. And I said, can you give me 3 weeks? Can you give me 3 weeks until we redo this? And every day I would visualize my breast, and I would imagine this white light and everything being clear and just everything being good. And I came back for the ultrasound, and first it was just like the radiologist or the technician, came out, and she just started going around. She's comparing the slides. She's looking at my breast, and she's like, I don't see anything. And then she calls in the doctor, and then the doctor goes ahead and he's looking, and they're looking at the slides they had just seen. And he pats me on the head and he goes, I don't know, kiddo, it's your lucky day, but there's nothing there. You can go home. And I really believe, I don't know if it could have been a cyst, I don't know, but I feel like that work that I was doing made a tremendous difference. So, I think a lot of times too.
I can feel it energetically.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
As you were talking about it, like I can feel the light and the effervescence of the energy. And, I think that this is also something that you're really sharing with your clients is, I believe in this like entrainment. And what I was saying earlier, like you have forged this path for others with you and next to you, and being able to find their own way, but because you have found yours. And yeah, so I just really love the connection that you're illustrating to your soul, to your higher power, which is the anchor through which, you're transforming your life.
And it's free. We can do this.
Right. And it's free.
Yeah. So you can pay tens of thousands of dollars in medical bills. Not saying that you don't need doctors, but there's a lot that we can do that we don't have to, go broke over.
Yes. Well, Danielle Pashko, thank you so much for being here with us today. If somebody wants to check you out and learn more about your work, where should they go?
They can go to my website, which is soulhacker.com. It's with 2 Ks, SOULHAKKER.com, or on Instagram, I'm the Soul Hacker with the 2 Ks.
Thank you so much for being here. This was a lovely conversation. And thanks for walking the journey for us and setting the example. It's really lovely. Our last segment today on Spiritual Ambition, our celebration of love's alchemy, where we bring our love to something that we're going to take a gentle pause to recognize the extraordinary magic that is woven through our everyday lives. Every episode, we take just a moment of loving celebration for something that might seem ordinary or even contrary at first glance, but it holds within it a spark of brilliance as we celebrate and remind ourselves why we chose to take a body and come here to human land. So from the sweetness of a juicy orange to the blessing of an emotional trigger, we turn our attention to the less obvious causes for celebration, for the little things that we might take for granted. And through loving appreciation and gratitude, we uplift ourselves and our vibration with the power of love, where we turn the seemingly mundane into marvels of magnificence as we see the whole human experience as the alchemy of our wisdom. And today, we are bringing our love to all of our bodily messages, to those symptoms, to those aches and those pains, and those imbalances that we deal with, because we know that that is an invitation for our loving. I'm going to invite us to just close our eyes for one more moment. We ask that light be sent up ahead for radiant health and well-being for everyone, everywhere, for that deep listening to the body's inherent wisdom, following that intelligence, visualizing what your ideal radiant health looks like, and then calling yourself forward into that. We are now closing all energetic lines of communication between any of us, closing all open portals, gateways, channels, agreements. Communication between any of us and the spirit world. We are so grateful. We are closing this show here today with love, in love, for love, by love, as love. I'm Donna Bond. This is Spiritual Ambition. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle.